Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hi, welcome to be my guest today. We have an encore appearance by one of our favorite authors, Nicole Raheja. Welcome back, Nicole.
Thank you for having me back.
You're welcome. You know, there's a lot of inspirational books out there. But when I read Nicole's, this has got a whole different, I don't know what the word is, twist, the take on it. It's called Redefining Positive. She's been on before. It's downstairs in the Upton Library. And it's how to use validation to be a positive force in people's lives. Where have you been appearing since before now? You before, between when you were here before and now?
So I had an appearance at the Tatnuk bookstore.
Yep.
And that was a book signing, and I got to meet a lot of people, and that's the only one I've had so far, but I'm in contact with other people about scheduling events further out.
Nicole and I were sharing that for authors, July and August are kind of slow, but I think the libraries are more interested in, scheduling their authors into the fall and beyond. I guess that, it's just one of those things. That's why I kind of give all the contacts to the authors ahead of time, like get yourself in so that you're in by September at least.
Oh yeah, that was really helpful.
Oh yeah, well definitely. So she's got so many chapters here. Validation basics. Let's go through them. What's the first rule of validation?
So the first rule of validation is that people's feelings are fixed factors, meaning that if someone says, I'm really upset in this situation, I'm really lonely, that you treat that as a fixed factor. Yeah. It's not something that you can change and say, oh, you just shouldn't be lonely in that situation. You just should be able to handle that, but that you say, okay, that's a fixed factor that you are lonely in this situation. Now, what are some things that we could do about this? Is this something where you want to entirely get out of this situation and maybe move back home? Is there something that you do want to stay here? And really working with the person, but making sure that their feelings are a fixed factor, that you're not saying you just shouldn't be lonely.
Yeah, I think I once heard it replying as you're shoulding on someone. I didn't say the other word, it's shoulding.
Yes.
And there is no, you can say you feel it like, gee, that person shouldn't really be, but you have to catch yourself and say, for them, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to have this digital communication. What's your deal on that?
So in digital communication, it's basically just about making sure that when you communicate online that you're making sure that you're a little bit more careful about the words that you say, because in real life you can use your tone and your facial expression to show that you're being a good friend, that you care about what the other person's saying. And so it's making sure that when you communicate digitally that you are being sure that you're being validating. Maybe like if someone's feeling bad, adding little smiley faces, hearts, making sure.
Nicole, you have a job in everyday life working with figures.
Mm-hmm.
Where did this humongous ability to write a book like Redefining Positive, where did this all come from?
I guess I've kind of been writing my whole life. Like I was always making up stories when I was younger.
But this is psychology in a way.
Yeah.
Where did this come from? It's wonderful.
I don't know. I guess I really just sort of observed. Like I've been through a lot of invalidating experiences, and a lot of this came from looking back at some of my own experiences sort of under a magnifying glass and saying, okay, why was this wrong? What's the principle behind why this was wrong? And then sort of putting that into an example that's easy for other people to understand.
Perfect. Respecting boundaries. I'm a big one on that.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So that's about basically just being validating if someone says no, they're not really okay with something. Mm-hmm. If you ask someone, hey, can I do this? And they say, oh no, I don't really want to do that, that you just respect that.
Right, exactly. I think some people grow up in homes and they don't remember until maybe years later that, there weren't any boundaries in our home, like somebody could just charge into my room, or somebody could this and that. And luckily, I didn't grow up with that at all. Boundaries were pretty, You know, you didn't. My father had a home office. You did not bother him. And my mother said, "Do not bother your father."
Right.
Years later, he said to me, "It would have been okay if she came in and sat," which was his way of saying she could have just knocked on the door and come on. I wouldn't have bothered him. But I think Mom was. You got to respect that. You know, you got to look out for that. Generation gaps. Tell me about it. Are you in my son's generation, the millennials?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this is good. If you're a baby boomer, I don't know, are your parents baby boomers?
Yes.
Okay, you're raising a millennial. The difference.
Yeah. So with generation gaps, I talk about, it's totally fine to bond with people of your own generation in a nice way. A lot of my friends and I will bond about being 90s kids and the things that we grew up with, but sometimes it can go into this kind of take an invalidating turn. Yeah. Even people my age criticizing the younger generations for having things that we didn't have when we were their age. And I think what's important to keep in mind is that you can really say that at any age. I mean, some people my age will say, when I was 10 years old, I didn't have that, and sort of putting down the younger generation. But really, that can be said at any age. What I often say to people is, okay, well, if you're, say, 30 years old now, what about all the things you have that your parents didn't have when they were 30?
Yeah, like digital.
Right, yeah. Right. I mean, that it can really be said for any generation. Like, it's fine for us to bond over things that are special to our generation, but we need to remember those things our parents didn't have, so we shouldn't be putting down the next generation for having
my son goes on a tirade. He thinks that we got to get all those old people out of ruling Washington. I'm thinking, wait a minute. What is your definition of old? I mean, you got to have a mixture of the older politicians mixed in with the young ones, and they can learn from each other, right? I'm not any particular age favorite at all. I just looking at that person, like, what have you got to offer us? Now, when the shoes don't fit, what's that all about?
So that's about, we often say that it's good to put yourself in another person's shoes, and that chapter is just saying that sometimes that doesn't work, because you might say, if I were in your shoes, if I were in your situation, I'd be totally fine with that, so I don't understand why you're having a problem with it. So it's about just saying that it's okay if you would feel differently in their shoes. Like, you don't have to feel the exact same way about the same things. Right,
yeah. I mean, you can live with somebody and you don't agree with something, but that's part of the boundary. Like, fine.
Right.
You know you're not going to be able to wrestle them to the ground. Don't talk people out of how they feel. This is part of this whole thing. It's like, okay, you feel that way, I disagree, but that's cool.
Right. And even just on smaller things, if someone says, it's too cold here, or that's too much for me, or that's too far away, that's too this or that, just respecting that even if you don't feel that way yourself.
Yeah, I have a friend who won't drive. She's too young for this, won't drive at night. And I'm thinking, it's okay, I'm willing to meet you close to your home or pick you up, and we'll go out for coffee or do something. Don't worry about it.
Right.
I think she's even afraid of that. I'm thinking, that's it. The things we can't change. I can't do anything more than that.
Right.
All right, we are talking again with Nicole Raheja and Redefining Positive. How to use validation to be a positive force in people's lives. This from this young lady. This book looks like it was written by a professional psychiatrist or psychologist. I'm very fortunate and blessed to be her publicist, and let me tell you. Now, do you still think that maybe senior centers, would you like to go there? Because, I mean, this is for everybody.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely for everybody.
Okay, because I'm like, gosh, don't leave anyone out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, I love this, but they just want attention.
Right. I mean, it's totally fine if someone does want attention, but it's not something where we should be writing something off as, oh, this person just wants attention, as if that doesn't matter. If someone has something wrong, they might need care and validation, attention, and that's legitimate.
Very much so. Systematic oppression. What's that?
So that's about, when people are speaking out about things like racism, sexism, homophobia, anything like that, we want to make sure that we're validating people who have different experiences than ours. Sometimes someone might say, oh, well, that type of oppression doesn't exist because I don't see it myself. And it's important to make sure you're listening to the people that it's happening to, because it's very easy to not see something when the system is sort of designed for you in a way you might not realize what it's like for somebody else.
Nicole, how can people get your book?
So my book is available on Amazon, and you can also get the Kindle edition on Amazon.
I stopped down at the Upton Library. It's down there. Now, advice, pressure, and consent.
So
advice and suggestion is tricky, right? Not everybody wants to hear it.
Right. And the advice section is really about giving advice in a way that is validating the person's needs, that making sure that you're, if someone asks for directions, you're asking them, where do you want to go? And that you're basing the advice on, do they want this advice? Are they looking for a suggestion? And am I giving them suggestions based on what I know that they like already?
Right.
And regarding, so the example I always give for pressure and consent is that if I say that I started a club and I really, really want my friend to join the club, and so I say, hey, would you like to join my club? And my friend says, oh, no thanks, I'm not really interested. And I say, okay, well, I want you to join, so I'm going to follow you around all day and poke you with a stick until you say you'll join.
Yeah.
So I keep following around, poking
Good luck with that.
for a couple of hours, and finally my friend says, okay, fine, I'll join your club, just stop poking me.
Yeah.
Now, my friend did not consent to joining my club. They just wanted me to stop. And in that case, that's very obvious because it's physical. But what we don't always realize is that sometimes the words we use and how we talk to people, if we're really putting so much pressure on someone, trying to guilt trip them, trying to make them feel like there's something wrong with them for not doing what we're doing, that is the emotional equivalent of following someone around and poking them with a stick.
It's like stalking.
Like we can be hurting them on the inside by really pushing someone to do things they don't want to do. And, I've heard people sort of act like it's an accomplishment if they finally sort of got someone to come around and do what they want them to do, when reality is you got them to say, okay, just stop poking me. That's compliance. Compliance is when you go along with something because the outcome is worse if you don't, because you say, okay, the stress or the distress of being in your club or doing whatever it is you want me to do is less bad than whatever pressure you're putting on me, whereas consent is actually wanting to do the thing.
Yeah, I think it's tough sometimes. You can see where the person might do well or something like that, but they're not ready yet, or they may never be ready.
Right. It could just be a difference of interest. And what I really get into with peer pressure is that, when we were younger and we were learning about peer pressure in school, and that's why I wanted to address this in the book, is that we often talked about it like positive pressure is pressure to do something positive, and negative pressure, it's only a problem if it's to do something negative. I know when I was in the younger grades in school, we would maybe talk about peer pressure, say a friend is pressuring you to steal something from a classmate. Well, that's sort of mixing two things together because, and while it is good to talk about that, stealing from a classmate is wrong anyway. It's not really about the pressure. And as we got older, it was all about, pressure to drink alcohol, to smoke, use drugs, things that the adults didn't really want us to do anyway. And the issue is we never learned about peer pressure just on its own. If someone's really pressuring you to, say, get a haircut, to join the basketball team, to do things that might be perfectly acceptable things to do, perfectly fine, but you just don't want to do them. And what I've seen and experienced is that people can be really, really harassing someone about something like straightening their hair or joining a gym or doing things like that, and it doesn't really get taken seriously as a problem because the thing itself is not bad. And so that's something I attempt to, going along with the theme Redefining Positive, in the book you'll notice that all of the examples I give about peer pressure, they're all pressure to do things that are socially desirable, that are perfectly fine things to do. And you really have to look and see, okay, is the person that I'm pressuring, did they express any type of interest in this?
I know that, I think when you and my son are in the same group, and it's like when he was growing up, I think maybe today too, but, there was a lot of stuff on the guys to be into sports.
Yeah.
Okay, like a good mom, I said, let's try out soccer. He tried out soccer, but I don't think the coach lied to him intentionally, but said, I'll walk you through it. No problem. My son lives more up here. He's not that, although he walks all the time, but anyway.
Right.
So he got in, he tried it. It was a good sport. He came back in the car. He said, nope. And he told me that the coach did not do what he said he would. Well, basically, my son kept screwing up, didn't know, what are the rules? That's, he was smart enough to get out because the peer pressure would have been like, what's wrong with you type of thing.
Right,
And
right.
he just, not everybody's cut out for that. And
Yeah.
But he was willing to learn. He tried karate, made it up to, the orange belt. I guess he got bored. I don't know. But we tried it.
Right.
He tried it, and when he said to me, I've had enough, no problem.
Right.
If it were studying in school, and he said that, I went, well, my thing would usually be, well, let's get a mentor, let's get a tutor. Because
Right.
I can't be your end-all, be-all, and your father can't either. Now, all right. Painkillers. What's that?
So that's about so sometimes we have this tendency to just sort of, if someone's in a lot of distress, we give them a suggestion that's just kind of a temporary fix, something that they can feel better now. And that can be very useful to, like, distracting from pain is a skill that you can use. But what's important to keep in mind is that pain is there for a reason. It's there to tell us something. It's there to tell you, take your hand off the hot stove or stop walking on your sprained ankle. And if you're in a lot of emotional pain, that can mean that something in your life needs to change. It might mean, what, I don't fit in on the team. I need to leave. I don't fit in at this school. I need to, leave or transfer or something like that. And it's just about not saying that the only way of fixing something is just a temporary painkiller, because the pain is there to tell you something.
I think it works for the adults who are working in the corporate world, as well as the kids in high school.
Yeah.
There's a feeling like if you're not complying with what everyone else is doing, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
And that is, it's like kids learn differently. If you have a kid with ADHD, they're going to learn a little bit differently. Or somebody who's more, what are the senses? They're more audio, hands-on, physical, visual.
Yeah.
It applies to us too as adults. And they're going to think, well, I'm not learning the way the rest of the kids in here, or I'm in corporate, and I'm not doing what the head honcho is saying, and everyone else is like sheep. They think there's something wrong with them.
Right.
There isn't. It's just that you have something different to give to the group. And I don't
Right.
think a lot of good leaders tap into that person's talent. If they don't seem like they're doing well, sit down with them, get to know them, and say, how do you think you would feel more comfortable? To me, that's a
Right.
good leader.
Yeah.
Your book also, I'd love to get, Redefining Positive. How many leaders do we know, whether it be teachers or it be the corporate CEOs, are lousy at all the things we've talked about today, appreciating what someone else is thinking, which may not agree with them. I know my son was like that in school. He'd tell the teacher, you're not teaching it right. Okay, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that was his kid's aggressive way of saying, I think I want to learn differently. I mean,
Right.
don't do it. But I never would have dreamed of it. But he had the guts to say, no, walk out of the room.
Wow.
All right, that's pushing the envelope. But we are talking with Nicole Raheja, and she wrote Redefining Positive, how to use validation to be a positive force in people's lives. And right now you're on Amazon.
Yes, it's on Amazon.
Do you have a website?
And my website is in process right now.
It's in process. Okay.
It will be my name, NicoleRaheja.com.
Now, if any of you out there would like to have Nicole come speak, how can they reach you?
You can reach me at my author email address, which is authorinquiries@NicoleRaheja.com.
Okay, Nicole, Nicole, Raheja, Raheja. What a beautiful, beautiful name. Raheja. You're Indian, right? Partly
Yes.
East Indian. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, at the very end, you have something that I love. It's called Validation Checklist. What's that?
So the validation checklist is just sort of a synopsis of the whole book, where I went through each section and just wrote a little piece about what the section was, and it's kind of a checklist that you can go through and put check marks. Are you doing this?
Right.
This is what it means to be validating. Like, when someone feels this way, I respect their feelings, and you can sort of check off what are the things you've done, and that part is actually part of the free preview that you get on Amazon, so people can kind of have a summary of what the book is about.
Self-understanding part 4, goal setting. I don't think I really had super goals growing up. I was a late bloomer, and I didn't have anything particular. Everything I wanted to try, so I'm going to try this. And my mother said, if you have a bee in your bonnet, she says, she knew me very well, she says, you better just go do it. You know, really, if it meant left home and traveling up to New Hampshire with $400 in my pocket, renting a room, do it, because I was miserable if I didn't.
Right.
And that's kind of a goal, but I don't know.
Well, that actually is part of, so with the goal setting chapter, I actually encourage people to try different things.
Yeah.
That part is about, sometimes we've sort of been given a formula, like these are the things that are acceptable to have as goals, or that in order for something to be a goal, it has to be school related or career related or something like that. And this is really about exploring all of your options and also exploring about how you work best. For example, let's say you had a goal that you want to learn how to play the guitar and you want to practice for, say, an hour a day. Well, maybe you might prefer to have a set schedule, practice the same time every day, or that might be too structured for you. You might feel like, well, I want to be free to do it whenever I want as long as I get it done. And so I encourage people to figure out how you work best by trying different ways. Take 1 week where you have a schedule, and then 1 week where you do it however you want and see what works best.
I think maybe, what you're touching on, my mother had a schedule for me. I always knew what dinner was going to be, what time you're going to bed. She was going to read to me. I knew what time to get up. Now as an adult, I'd rather do it. Okay, I'm going to sit down and devote 4 hours to my work. But right now I'm going to play, or I'm going to just kick back, maybe just, do some errands or whatever. As a kid, you're with your parents, they can tell you what you're going to do.
Right.
But God bless her, she kept me on a schedule, which is probably pretty good. She wasn't mean about it. She just kind of let me know we have a pattern, and you're safe, and this is where we're going with it. I don't know how many kids grow up with that, though.
Right.
Did you have that? Did your parents let you know what your boundaries, your pattern was?
Sometimes. I mean, I had some schedule, but I really liked a lot of free unstructured time, so that's more
a lot of kids come home from school these days. Well, they're overbooked anyway for things. I don't buy that at all. I used to come home and I would look forward to the milk and cookies. No kidding, Mom would make raisin oatmeal cookies. My best friend, hers wasn't as good, so she came over to my house for the cookies, right? But a lot of the kids I see nowadays, that's it. As soon as you get home, sit down, you got to do your homework.
Yeah.
I needed to unwind.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I would have done a good job with homework if I had to immediately sit down and do it.
Yeah.
My mother said, just go out, play, do whatever you want, go out with your best friend, and then by 7, do your homework. I got the message. It got done. I knew I had to do it. But it wasn't cracking a whip at me.
Right.
And I was never overbooked. If anything, I had a lot of time to just connect, which is, I think, part of what you're saying, connecting, especially with connecting with yourself. Don't be a fair weather friend. Boy, have I met a few of those. You too?
Yeah.
What the heck is with a person who is like that? Once I'm a friend, that's it. Usually, unless they've done something horrible, it's for life.
Right.
I don't understand just throwing friends away.
Right.
I don't get that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what that chapter talks about is, a lot of our culture now is about, only be around positive people, drop negative people, and it really depends how you define it. I mean, I definitely agree with, drop someone, if they're if negative to you means that they're mistreating you, they're being abusive, that's one thing, but for someone who's just not happy, you should be staying friends through thick and thin. It shouldn't be about only surround yourself with people who are positive in that sense, but positive forces in your life, which is the sort of redefined type of positive.
This is so important. I know that my best friend and I were a sophomore year in high school, and she and I had been great buddies.
Yeah.
But she began to change. I was not very moody. I would get on the school bus, sit beside her. She was like a clam. I thought, who is this? I got tired of having to be the one to keep up the conversation, of thinking things to do. How are you? Finally, I got up and changed my seat and never sat by her again. And I don't know if you're outgrowing the person or she just, I don't know what it is, but I sensed that something was really not right.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you have to think, it's not me. this is this person's stuff. But back then, oh no, I must have said something.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you're younger. You can't always, like, then when you're older, you're like, oh, right, I think something is going on in their life.
Yeah, I later found out that there was problems, I guess a lot of fighting with her mother, this type of thing, whereas
Yeah.
I had just the opposite. My mother and I were very close.
Right.
So, I don't know, but evidently it was showing in the new moodiness, and I just couldn't get it. I took it like, my God, I didn't know how to deal with it.
Right.
Now, again, we are talking with Nicole Raheja. We've got about 2 minutes left. Redefining Positive, how to use validation to be a positive force in people's lives. Now, I love it. How to be awesome. How do we be awesome? Like you.
So that's actually an essay that my friend who helped me edit the book wrote, Eli, and it was basically about being awesome as in being a good friend.
Yeah.
And there was a bulletin board at our school that was how to be awesome that said things like be positive, smile, and really putting people into a box, like saying you won't be as likable if you're not smiling all the time.
No.
And that was really about how to be awesome in the sense of just being you and being an awesome friend.
Yeah, I love that. The fair weather friend and being awesome. If something's bothering you and you have a friend, share it. I know it's hard to do for some people, but don't hold it in. You're likely to send the wrong message to that friend, like, I don't want to be friends anymore, which isn't it. Easy to misunderstand somebody's responses.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it really is. I think if you're a positive person and suddenly somebody is, you're like, what? And how can I help? I think that's another thing as you grow older, like, gee, is there anything I can do? We can't always change or help somebody change or get back to, so you just think, okay, would you recommend they just stick with it for a while, see how it goes?
Yeah.
Before cutting the strings, right?
Oh, yeah, and be validating and make sure that the person knows. I mean, if they're not mad at you, as long as the conflict's not with you, I wouldn't cut the strings because someone is going through something. I would only cut it if they're mistreating you.
Yeah, they probably just aren't up to talking about it right then and there.
Oh, yeah, of
and
course.
They may never, but
Yeah.
maybe somewhere down the line they will. Now, you have another book coming.
Yes.
Do you know the title?
I don't have a title yet, but
Okay.
it's a young adult novel that talks about neurodiversity and just questioning what we value.
Your parents must be so proud of you. My gosh. Now,
Thank
did you
you.
take the day off, the afternoon off to come on the show?
Yes.
I think part of your calling is working in social services and helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. To me, this is like somebody who's had 25 years in the business, and like I said, you're way ahead. This is a very professional style. But that's one reason I like helping her get out there and get noticed, because this goes for any age group. There's no barrier in this thing. You could be in school, you could be 95 years old, and it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things to think about. Pick up the copy over at the Upton Library or go to Amazon, Redefining Positive. You'll see what I mean. Thank you for being with us again, and we will have her back.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream.